Hey everybody, so I'm just here to give a bit of an update on my Wraithknight. It is sort of I'm slowly but surely making progress on this. I think I've been pretty busy lately with this real life stuff, and but with that I've just been doing a little bit every day to just do the modifications on the base, the work on the orc that's on the bottom, and the magnets, and I've been doing a lot of what I guess I would describe piddly work, just rather than just jumping in and painting pretty quickly, which is what I normally do. I thought what I'd do is just show some of the stuff that I did, because in particular with the way I attached it to the base, it's nothing revolutionary, but I had, some concerns as to how I put this on the base for a number of reasons. One, because of the weight of this model, like with the guns alone and just everything on it. I remember when I did the Wraithlord last time, and with the Wraithlord being half the size, I still wasn't sure whether just gluing it directly on the base, whether I'd have a problem. I really didn't, but from a transportation perspective, it fits just fine in my case. But if I actually just attached this, tried to put this in my case attached to the base, it would really be, I guess it would just provide a lot less options and convenience for transportation. And the other thing too is if I just glued this guy with super glue on the base with his feet, I was a little concerned that I would, end up having it break when I play, just because of the weight of the model. And so I thought, am I going to do magnets? And for the same reason that I didn't do magnets on the waist here, I decided not to, just because of the magnets that I own. I have 3 sizes, and my largest size is 3/16 by 1/16 or 4/16, I think. Basically, it's the guy that wrote it on the canister that I bought it. Didn't really write it very well, but it's basically this size here is sort of my largest magnet that I've got. So it's not really small, actually, but it's not that big as compared to some of them that you can get and what I thought I would need for this. It's very good for heavy weapons and most of what I need, arms and stuff like that. And so I'll get to the base and how I attached it in a second. One thing I did do is I noticed with a lot of the YouTube vids that people were struggling with their arms falling down just because they're so long, and you can get something that attaches an arm just fine, but with the amount of weight that goes out and extends pretty far, I saw a lot of them just really just falling and stuff. And so what I ended up doing is I ended up putting green stuff inside on the arm joint, and I ended up making show you here, get it into focus. I ended up making a bit of a notch right here, so it's a bit of an artificial notch right there that just sticks out just for a little added security and to cause some friction. The reason I did it on the front is that I wanted to make sure that if I did end up causing some problems with the fit, that the arms would actually go outwards a bit more and not inwards. Because if I was worried that if I put it in the back, that I would end up tilting the gun this way. And I would rather, in most cases, whether it be a sword, because this is going to happen with every arm, if you put it directly on there, it'll affect every arm you put on here. I'd rather have it actually tilt a little outwards than inwards. And to be honest, they ended up coming out pretty straight the way I did it. Like, I don't really have much of an issue, and so it worked out good. I was actually a little worried, to be honest. I thought I was going to end up having to pull it all out, all the green stuff out, and that I was going to have lots of problems, but it actually worked out pretty good. So I think I showed you in another video where I primarily magnetized. That bit that I just did with the arm there was something new, but really I've got magnets under here for when you have the sun cannon and other things. You can actually add stuff just on the forearm. You can add your guns underneath if you want. Pretty sure. I haven't tested it because I'm actually planning just using the guns on top mostly, but yeah, I can add the gun underneath if I want. You really can't see it. It sort of hides it a little bit in my mind when you do it that way. So when it comes to the model going to the base, what I did is I actually pinned it to the base, and what I've noticed And so I actually drilled holes in the bottom. Now if you look at the kit, there's a very narrow margin of structural integrity on this foot that goes up. This is just a shield, and there's very little underneath it. It's like hollow. And as you can see, there's like a ball joint that goes in here, and there's very little here. And so if you are going to do this, I had no problems. My first drill made the mark both times. I basically drilled in between these two lines there, and even more accurately, to follow the model itself, or the instructions. If you look underneath here, getting in real close, underneath this shield there's some divots in here. This divot that's sort of one from the back, this one right there, as you can see the hole, what I aimed for is the middle of that. That's where there's a column of plastic that you can actually leverage to drill a hole through. And so the reason I did this is, like I said before, I wanted something that structurally was going to work and that I could also disassemble, and I just really didn't want to use magnets for this. And so that's how I did. That was the trickier part, was actually doing the foot and making sure I didn't ruin the foot. I've never put like a pin through one of these thin plastic bases to hold something before. I have done it through some foam that I put on top of a base for small models, but never something this big like this. And so what I ended up doing is just using green stuff on the bottom and just fixing the, I used crazy glue on the top, and then I fixed it on the bottom with green stuff and let it dry overnight. And so that's, and what these pins are, which this is probably common sense to most modelers, but for me, because I've not pinned something this big before, I didn't know what to use. So I just grabbed a brad nail from my garage and I hacksawed the front of it off, and just, I've got a little bit of lip on the back so it holds it on the back, and it's just chopped at the top, and so this is just a nail that I hacksawed the front off of. I used a bunch of pebble rock and foam, you know, to create just the starting of the base here. And for on top of the base, as you guys know that have been watching the last video, is I've got the Assault on Black Reach War Boss, which I've just got the first coat of base paint on. Did a little bit of highlighting too, but basically I'm just really got my first coat of paint on him. And my last video sort of shows that some of the conversions I did on his neck. I broke his head off and made it looking up and sculpted the neck, so he's looking backwards, sort of screaming in agony, and there'll be blood coming and stuff like that. I'll be doing other fun stuff on here. So, and I made him a Goth. I'd never done that before, but I struggled a bit and just did some checkerboard freehanding on the top there, because of course if it's going to be an Orc War Boss, it's got to be a Goth on here that he's killing. So no offense to the Goth players out there. So so yeah, that's where I'm at. Coming along slowly but surely. It doesn't, maybe it doesn't look like I've done a lot, but it feels like I have done a little bit every day and a lot for a bit. But yeah, and you know, like the pinning piece here has been a good experience with this, because that's one of the things that I was quite worried about. And yeah, so hope things are going well, everybody, and I will try to, sorry I haven't had many videos recently, but I'll try to be putting some more stuff out pretty soon. Okay, take care.